Sai Ram. We welcome you back with the sixth part and the concluding part of this particular chapter, chapter 3 of inclusive strategies. After that, we will take one more part just to discuss the question and answers, but the chapter finishes here. And in today's chapter, we are going to see the role of self-help groups and microfinance in empowerment of women, rural women of India. So, basically we are going to see in this the chapter, this particular portion of this chapter talks about how these poor women or even men for that matter can come together, form little groups for themselves, pool in some money which can work for each one of them at the time of need. And with that pool of money, they can create an account which can further their investments and can work towards their profit. And how the banks also play a role and they also combine, how the state government and the central government also play a role, and all these things when combined together, they made a great impact in poverty alleviation in India, especially amongst the women. It all helped the women to become more self-reliant and economically independent. These two were the major issues why the women were taken as the secondary citizens of India. And when these two things got into at an equivalent level with men, their status and situations also improved. So, as we go on with the chapter slowly, we will see how it happened. But before that, as we always do, we will discuss the answers of the questions that we had asked in the last chapter. So, the question was, what is gender discrimination? And the answer to that was, gender discrimination is the discrimination against people based on gender. That means, when we color whether this particular gender is higher and this particular gender is lower, then we create a kind of discrimination on the basis of this idea of inequality. Okay. The second question is, what does the report towards the equality talk about? So, the report of the National Commission that was set up to examine the status and problems of Indian women. So, it was the report given by this National Commission. Which year did the Government of India declare as the year of women empowerment? And that was 2001. And list out the strategies for women empowerment, and the strategies are given as legal, social, economic strategies. So, these are just the indication towards your answer. Please read the chapter well in order to get the proper answers. Now, let us move on with the current part. So, in today's part, what are we going to look at? We are going to learn about what are self-help groups, their meaning and their examples, microfinances, again meaning and type of microfinances and their features, which is informal, member owned, formal financial institutions. Then microfinance in India, in that we are going to talk about various such organizations. Stri Shakti, aim, objective, saving and interlending. Role of NGO in women empowerment, and this particular NGO that we are going to learn about, Shri Kshetra Dharmashala Rural Development Project, Lijjat Papad and Seva. So, what are these things? As we progress in the lesson, we will learn. So, let us learn about self-help groups. So, a self-help group is a small group which comprises of group of micro entrepreneurs having homogeneous social and economic background. So, what are they? They come together voluntarily to save regular small sums of money. Basically, these self groups are little financial committees, and they do not need to be registered with any formal institution or under any act. People can just come together voluntarily to save regular and small sums of money which can come to their help at the time of need. And this is what is explained in the fourth point. They pool their resources to become financially stable, taking loans from the money collected by the group. The group members use collective wisdom to ensure proper end use of credit and timely repayment. This system eliminates the need for collateral security. So, what is collateral security? Collateral security is a system where there is a money lender and there is a person who wants to take loan. So, the person who wants to take loan, he will have to deposit a particular asset, because the person does not have the money. So, they have to deposit a particular asset or pledge that they are depositing it in order to procure that loan. In case they are not able to repay the loan amount, the money lender has the right to sell off whatever they had deposited. So, this particular system, it gave way to many exploitative policies and practices against the poor people who were taking the money as loans. So, this system of self-help does not need this kind of collateral security, because it is made by the homogeneous group of people who have come together from the same background. They are all poor people. So, they will look after each other's needs. You do not have to deposit anything as against the loan that you are borrowing. So, then here comes another non-government organization, Myradha, and between 1984 to 1985, they were engaged in rural development programs in Karnataka. And this particular organization promoted several cooperatives. So, what are cooperatives? Cooperatives are again like self-help groups only. They are societies made up by the people of the similar interest. They can work towards a production, and each person is assigned a typical completely particular job what they need to do, and the profit will be shared by each one of them. The money will be pooled in by each one of them, the profit will also be shared by each one of them. So, these cooperatives came into being, many cooperatives with the help of this particular non-government organization. So, these cooperatives were the genesis of the first SHG, that is self-help group, referred to as credit management groups with the focus of management of credit. So, this organizing cooperatives, this gave the idea for making these self-help groups. So, during 1991-92, the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, it is a government body, it launched the SHG, the Bank Linkage Program. SHG have the potential to tackle poverty and can be an important weapon for poverty alleviation in India. So, basically what this bank did, there were these small little groups in the societies and they were private groups, but with the help of NABARD, these groups were given one space in the bank also, because bank has a certain conditions. Not everybody can go and open their account, but with the help of this particular system of introduced by NABARD, these small help groups and self-help groups could open their account, could borrow, could deposit the money that they had collected and could earn an interest. So, this all happened with the help of this NABARD. So, what are the advantages of internal lending in SHG? What is internal lending? That members are borrowing and lending within the system, within their entire group. So, it is an internal lending. So, managing their own common fund. Self-help group members not only take care of the financing needs of each other, but develop their skills of financial management and intermediation as well. So, what will happen if there is a group of maybe 40 people or 15 people, what will they do? They will know that this particular person needs money. So, this person will be given money from the joint pool, and this person will slowly repay according to his own or her own repayment capacity. So, they look after each other's financing needs this way. So, this is very personal and flexible. So, lending to members also enhances the knowledge of SHG members in setting the interest rate and periodic loan installments, recovering the loan, etc. So, then we come to microfinance. Microfinance is as the name suggests, micro means small and finance means economical help, that is help with the money. It is a category of financial services for individuals and small businesses who lack access to conventional banking. So, these bankings, they have very strict rules. So, the poor people cannot have access to these kind of banking facilities. So, this microfinance was started for their help, and it was started in the rural areas itself, so that people can have an easy access to these kind of financial help or institutions. They provide microcredit to socially, economically neglected and poor clients. Financial services such as saving accounts, insurance, fund and credit provided to poor and low income clients to help them raise their income and thereby improve their standard of living. So, they have very relaxed conditions for poor people for opening their saving accounts, for having their insurance and for providing them credit, etc. So, this is a simpler way to help the poor people. What were the major features of microfinance? So, they give loan without security, which is a very big thing, because whenever you go to any commercial bank, they will not give you loan without having any security. What is security? You will have to either show your income or show your properties, so that the banks are sure that you are able to pay back the money that you have taken from the bank. So, these poor people, they do not have anything to show, they do not have their income, they do not have the properties to show it to the banks that they can repay the loan back. So, this was the major feature of microfinance, that they will provide loan without having taking any security from the people who are borrowing it. Second feature was to loans were given to people who live under those who are BPL, that is below poverty line. So, we remember this particular group does not have a very high income coming in. So, they are not able to pay back the loans. So, their conditions of giving the loan will be very relaxed for them. Even members of SHG, that is self-help groups, may get benefit from microfinance. So, you can understand that some people have opened their own self-help group, but they do not have, even after pooling in the money, they fall short of some economic status or the proper amount that they require. So, what they can do? They can go back to these microfinance organizations. They will give them loan and they can start off what they want to. Maximum limit of loan under microfinance is relatively a small amount. So, they do not give a high amount of money as a loan, they give small amounts only as loan. The terms and conditions given to poor people are decided by SHG. So, this is one big advantage, that the self-help groups only can provide the terms and conditions how they are going to repay the loan taken by these finance organizations, microfinance. For some, microfinance is a movement with the objective to provide high quality financial services, not just credit, but also savings, insurance and fund transfers. So, this is basically set up for the poor people. Without much capital also, they can have these services. Many believe that such access to ready financial help will help poor people to get out of poverty, because they have a regular stream of money flowing into them. They can think of opening some kind of industry or some kind of little venture for them to look after their economical needs. For others, microfinance is a way to promote economic development, employment and growth through the support of micro entrepreneurs and small businesses. Now, what are the types of microfinance? The first type is, there are basically three types, and the first is informal financial service providers. So, who are they? They are informal. So, they are private money lenders, pawn brokers. Who are pawn brokers? Again, they will ask for some kind of security from you. Saving collectors, chit funds and input supply shops. So, these people they can lend, they are private agencies or small groups who can lend money to these either groups, institutions or individuals also. Because they know each other well and live in the same community, they understand each other's financial circumstances and can offer very flexible, convenient and fast services. So, they are in the same community, they know each other personally also. So, they know how much can you pay back, how much do you need, they have personal terms, and this way they are not strict rigid rules of loan repayment. So, this is also one of the advantages, especially for the people who live in poor conditions or in rural India. These services can also be costly and the choice of financial products limited and very short term. So, informal services that involve savings are also risky. For example, many people have lost their money in chit funds. So, this first particular type, which is taking money from private money lenders, can be a bit costly for the poor people, because there are not, the terms and conditions are based on their own choice, the money lender's choice. So, the people have to fall into all the terms and conditions given to them. So, it can turn out to be a bit costly, and it can be a bit risky also, and many people, they are not able to pay back their money or get their share back. For example, what happened in chit funds, the entire money can go lost, can get lost, and the people, the individual members might not get anything back. Second type is member owned organizations. So, these include self-help groups, credit unions, and a variety of hybrid organizations like financial service associations. So, hybrid organizations meaning many organizations coming together to help these self-help groups. So, they are generally small and local, which means they have access to good knowledge about each other's financial circumstances and can offer convenient and flexible loans to these people. So, that means how and when you repay the loan will be flexible. If the person is not able to pay back, can request for some more time. So, this is what is meant by flexibility. This Grameen Bank, Bangladesh, is a member owned organization started by Muhammad Yunus in 1970. So, this is a very important movement coming in the rural sector. So, this initiative of Grameen Bank was started by this particular person, Muhammad Yunus, in 1970, and this particular system encouraged people again to come together, form their own associations, and that proved to be very innovative, pioneering banking techniques like solidarity lending, village banking, and mobile banking that have overcome the barriers to serve the poor populations. Now, third type is formal financial institutions. So, in addition to commercial banks, these include state banks, agricultural development banks, saving banks, rural banks, and non-bank financial institutions. So, this is one formal agency now which is coming into picture. So, they can be commercial banks and state banks. So, but they are also oriented towards providing loans in small amounts to poor people in simpler conditions, simpler terms and conditions. They are regulated and supervised and offer a wide range of financial services and control a branch network that can extend across the country and internationally. So, they have a very wide reach, these kind of banks. So, you must have seen these kind of banks, some branches are there even in rural areas. However, they have proved reluctant to adopt social missions. This is one problem, because they are being driven by some commercial purposes. So, due to their high costs of operation, that means whatever you do, high rate of interest will be there. Your saving accounts also, they need to have a big amount for you to open a saving accounts. So, because of due to all these problems, they often cannot deliver services to poor or remote populations. This is what they mean by high cost of operation. Then efforts are being made to link self-help groups to commercial banks by integrating mobile banking and e-payment technologies, which is very much in use these days. E-payment and mobile banking, you must be knowing that you pay your bill and you ask for credit and installments also. That can be done either through mobile or through network. So, these new technologies are also being introduced to these kind of banks for the poor people to use. So, what is the situation of microfinance in India? So, loans to poor people by banks have many limitations, including lack of security and high operating cost. This is now we just discussed what are the high operating costs. And so, microfinance was developed as an alternative to provide loans to poor people with the goal of creating financial inclusion and equality. So, this microfinance system, it helped the poor people also to avail of the credit facilities for them to come at improve their economic condition. Here comes the introduction of that person who introduced this idea of Grameen Bank, Muhammad Yunus. He is a Nobel Prize winner, and because of his contribution in the rural area for introducing a banking scheme in the rural area, he introduced the concept of microfinance in Bangladesh in the form of Grameen Bank. So, our own NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, took this idea from him, and this our NABARD also started the concept of microfinance in India. In this concept, there exists a link between self-help groups, NGOs and banks. So, there are now 3 agencies coming together. So, the SHGs are formed and nurtured by the NGO, and only after accomplishing a certain level of maturity in terms of their internal thrift, that is internal savings and credit operations, they are entitled to seek credit from the banks. So, basically what do these NGOs do? They help these self-help groups by bringing their total pool in money to a certain level. When they have deposited amongst or pooled in some amount of money which can be used to open their account in banks, they can apply to have a membership in the banks, and with that they can avail of these facilities which are provided by the bank, such as credit operations and other savings and other benefits which are provided by the bank. So, this happens with the help of this network of self-help groups, NGOs as well as banks. It involves commercial banks, regional rural banks and cooperative banks in its operations. So, when they all come together, they help the self-help groups to increase their investment also and to get the credit also from these banks. Another organization, Stri Shakti. So, Stri meaning women and Shakti means power. So, Stri Shakti program was launched in Karnataka during 2000 and 2001, and it is being implemented throughout the state to empower rural women and make them self-reliant. So, what is this particular organization doing? These again are enabling the people to form groups at the village level to inculcate the saving habits and empowering the women economically. So, what happens? Women come together, poor women come together and they pool in some kind of money. So, about 15 to 20 women members who are from BPL, that is below poverty line, and agricultural laborers, they can come together, pool in the money and they can create their own account to help each other. So, Stri Shakti groups are formed through Anganwadi workers and Taluk federations. So, these people are basically below poverty line and they can come together for each other's help, and they can by pooling in the money and lending it to the people of the group who need it at that time. And again, as you know, the what are the conditions of repayment? They are very flexible and convenient way of repaying the money, because these are made by the internal grouping and they all know each other's financial condition. So, these are very flexible way of lending the money and taking the money back. So, what were the aims and objectives of this Stri Shakti organization? Basically, it was to strengthen the process of economic development for rural women by creating a conducive environment for social change. And second one was to form self-help groups based on thrift and credit principles, which build self-reliance and enable women to come together and access and have control over the resources. And third objective was to increase the income level of rural women by engaging them in income generating activities and creating financial stability. So, basically what were the 3 points? First, to create a conducive environment for them by strengthening the process of economic development. How? By forming these kind of self-help groups which are based on thrift and credit principles. So, they have to save some amounts and pool in. So, they have now a particular amount for them to invest or for their use, and then to increase the income levels of rural women by engaging them in income generating activities. So, now as they have money, they can start a small business or a small industry, cottage industry or anything which can be called a income generating activity for them, and that will create a financial stability for them. Another objective was, fourth one, to provide opportunities to the members of the groups to avail the benefits of other departmental schemes by converging the services of various departments and lending institutions to ensure women's access to credit financing. So, basically the main idea was that women get an access to credit facilities which are being offered by various banks and other agencies. So, the fourth point was that this particular organization tried to bring them, converge all the existing help schemes which were running in that area together. So, when all these schemes are doing the, they should not be doubling of work, they are all coming together to help the women in a very streamlined way. Then savings and interlendings in the Shri Shakti group members, some data is given here that how well they have performed. So, they have saved rupees 1118 crores, 1118.05 crores since its inception. So, you can see how big money they have made for themselves. 1,20,155 groups have availed bank loans to the extent of rupees 1,305.97 crores and have done internal lending of rupees 3,250.88 crores to take up various income generating activities. So, this is the kind of success these groups have seen. So, what is the role of NGOs in women empowerment? Now comes the role of NGOs. So, here is the profile of this one particular NGO, which is Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project. So, up till now we looked into the role of the government agencies, the people coming together. Now, we look into the role of NGOs. So, as Swami says that with a combination of Samaj, Sarkar and Sansthan, there can be a progress. So, there is a very good example to see that how all the three agencies, that is Samaj, that is society in the way of creating self-help groups, Sarkar, that is the government which is trying to help those self-help groups, and Sansthan, that is these kind of NGOs are coming together to help rural development. So, this particular organization, Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project, popularly known as SKDRDP, is basically a charitable trust promoted by Dr. D. Virendra Hegade. So, what are the charitable trusts? Again, they are registered societies and registered trusts, and they help, they base their financial system through some kind of charity. So, this is under the headmanship of Dr. D. Virendra Hegade. So, this particular organization concentrates on the empowerment of rural women by organizing self-help groups which provide infrastructure and finance through microcredit for the rural people. It encompasses all aspects to enrich their life. So, they are basically providing money and creating self-help groups which will again generate money, take money by pooling in their own money, and by that they will they can build up small industries for themselves, and this organization will provide the infrastructure to start that kind of an industry. You must have heard about this Lijjat papad or must have tasted it. This is the name of it is Lijjat papad Shri Mahila Griha Udyog. So, this particular organization is a very big example of how women came together from very rural and poor background, and they pooled in their money and they started this small business of making papads, and now it is a full groomed industry. This is having a big turnover in terms of profit to its credit. You can see the kind of money these people are now earning. It is 6.50 billion in 2010 with rupees 290 million in exports. And how did they start it? They started with a seed capital of only rupees 80. Isn't it unbelievable when people come together with a common purpose, how well they can do for each other and for the society as well. And Lijjat Papad, Mahila Griha Udyog is a big example for that. Lijjat is headquartered in Mumbai and has 67 branches all over India. It is primarily a cottage industry, urban by its origin, that has spread to the rural areas. So, these were basically urban women who came together, but now it has gone to the rural areas also. It is considered as one of the most remarkable entrepreneurial initiatives by the women that are identified with female empowerment in India. This is a big example of female empowerment, what women, when they come together for a common purpose, what they can achieve. Now comes another such organization, which is SEWA, Self-Employed Women Association. So, it is all about when they come together, what great milestones can they achieve for themselves and for the society. So, Self-Employed Women Association has made significant contributions to the empowerment of women. It strived to integrate self-employed poor women with the mainstream economy through the twin strategies of struggle and development. So, now they are giving a little background of how the women were. They were worst victims of poverty, and poor women generally experience a variety of socio-economic and cultural deprivation in the society. So, this particular organization, they brought these women together to help them come up in their life financially with the help of they struggle and then development, struggle leading to development. The root cause of women's plight has been unemployment, lack of income and economic dependency on family or community, and this takes its root from which particular inequality? Gender inequality. Hence, creation of income generating opportunities is increasingly considered as an effective means of empowering women and improving their socio-economic condition in the society. So, when they come together, there is a possibility of generating income for each other and thereby improving their economic condition. So, the Self-Employed Women of Ahmedabad organized and formed this Self-Employed Women Association, which is called SEWA. It is an abbreviation for these 4 words, and it started in 1972. So, what is SEWA? It is Self-Employed Women's Association. The central concern of SEWA has been to secure a furnishing financial support in the form of microcredit and self-employed women. So, what is the basic aim of this? To provide microcredit, that means credit in small amount. To whom? To self-employed women. In order to provide finance facility to at the earliest, the Shri Mahila Seva Sehkari Bank Limited was registered in 1974. It extended its operation to include rural areas. So, it started in 1974 and it extended its operations to various other rural areas of India. In the leadership of Ila Bhatt, SEWA strived to create conditions of full employment and self-reliance for all its members. So, this particular person, Ila Bhatt, is the main person behind the entire endeavor, which is now called SEWA organizations. The concept of full employment is related to the employment of every single family, so as to ensure food security, income security and societal security. Health care, child care and shelter, these 3 things will be there with each family. That was the goal of this organization. The notion of self-reliance envisaged economic independence of the members, while simultaneously encouraging them to make their own decision. So, self-reliance in economic matters was the first thing, leading to taking their own decisions in their life for the women, which was a great change for them. Seva began its activities in rural areas in 1975. The successful experience of Seva demonstrated that poor are no more a burden on society. Their self-employment activities have tremendous potential to generate economic surplus in the society, as we have already seen the kind of money they have generated by coming together. If the poor are furnished with motivation and guidance by committed leadership, may produce maximum surpluses, leading to efficient use of resources. So, these particular organizations stand as an example to serve for everybody to see that when the groups come together, how wondrous achievement they can create for themselves and for the society. So, with this we conclude this chapter, and throughout this chapter we have seen how the inequalities were operating in the society and how these people, by coming together, first they came together and then they received the help from the wider sections of the society, including the government and non-government organizations also, and then they created a history for themselves as well as for the society. So, when we come together for a common cause, leaving behind the limitations that we were facing or shortcomings that we all can have, we can move forward. So, this is a very big lesson that these kind of organizations teach us. So, this is the entire crux of the chapter also. So, with this we come to an end, and please go through this chapter again very well, and we are not going to take up the questions in this section, because now in the next section we are going to deal with all the question answers, important questions, and how do you answer them. So, we will have a separate section for that only. So, we end here. So, please read your lesson well to understand what you have. There are various details also given. So, please go through them to get the main idea of what the chapter is telling us. So, I am leaving you with this, and take good care of yourself. See you again for the next part. Sai Ram.